previously on Loma Linda 360.
I became deeply impressed with the fact that we'd seen a number of babies with incurable heart disease, incorrectable heart disease, babies in whom you could only experiment surgically with.
We were a little stymied about how we were going to find donors for human babies. And so we began to actually study the possibility of cross-species transplantation using baby baboons.
My options that were given to me were, you can leave her here and let her die, you can take her to Barstow Hospital and let her die, or you can take her home and let her die.
We had a litany really of babies that came and were diagnosed and died. And for whatever reasons, along came this baby, Stephanie Fay.
And then the big moment came when, you look into this child's chest and there's no heart there. When they take that heart out, it's really very frightening. And then, of course, they brought the baboon heart in, and it was the perfect size, absolutely perfect. And he had that heart in no time, and then the big moment came when you start to rewarm the baby, let the blood flow through the heart, and you're waiting for that first beat.
The phone rang and you could hear a pin drop on this unit, which is unusual on an ICU unit, because what we wanted to hear one piece of information. Was that heart, did the heart beat? Was it beating? And that's exactly what the phone call said. It's beating, and you could hear them, somebody's loud voice, it's beating.
And my gosh, when that happened, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I said that before, I know it's been on the news, but it's absolutely true. I mean, we were all just choked up to hear that heartbeat, beep, 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 when that baboon heart started up. And it looked like a perfectly normal other human heart. It didn't, it doesn't look like a baboon. A heart is a heart.
And of course, the magical moment is always with any heart operation we do, is when we sort of allow the heart to resurrect, to recover. And when it takes that first sort of squeeze, that's truly a miracle.
Finally, the surgery was over, and the nurse called me and she said, the heart is in and beating on its own at 130 beats a minute. And we were thrilled, just thrilled, and we hugged each other, and it was just such a wonderful thing.
It was a really, really, really long day, because it just seemed like they were never going to get finished.
She made it out of the operating room beautifully, brought her into the ICU and then up to her room eventually.
I and the others that were deeply involved with her essentially camped out in her room, that's true. We took turns somewhat, so we occasionally got home for a shower and something to eat.
And then the work really started, because we had to divide our time between what we didn't want to do, and that is meeting the press, having to deal with all the questions, but to spend the majority of our time, for heaven's sakes, taking care of the baby.
The good news is that we have a beautiful, healthy baby up on the unit in the hospital. He was doing everything right as of this hour. We're pleased about that, and in fact, we expected that. The bad news is that as I was shining my shoes this morning, I discovered there's a big hole in my sole, which was not the right thing to have for this morning.
This is News 4 LA. Mike Sarge. Good evening, everyone. A 14-day-old baby girl is fighting for her life tonight after receiving...
It has never been done before, not successfully, and not on a patient so small.
The doctors who transplanted the heart of a baboon into the body of a 2-week-old girl yesterday said tonight the infant's condition is improving. The transplant is optimistic about the
known to the world as Baby Faye.
Oh my goodness. The media, you know, I have respect for the fact that we have, you know, the First Amendment and we need to know, you know, what's going on in the news and all.
People had gotten interested in this whole notion of treating fatal heart disease. There was huge publicity surrounding Barney Clark and the attempt to put an artificial heart in at Utah. The media followed that as the program moved from Utah to Louisville, Kentucky. And it meant that there were a lot of reporters and a lot of media people who were all of a sudden paying attention to the ethics side of doing a major medical experiment. And Baby Faye followed upon that.
There were so many reporters and picketers and so many things that were distractive, you know, at the time. And I was young and I was scared and I wanted everybody to leave me alone. And it just wasn't happening, you know.
NBC News has learned the identity of the child's parents. We will respect their wishes and not name them. However, certain aspects of their past might be relevant to some of the medical controversies in this case. According to relatives and court records, the couple were never married. They had separated by the time the infant was born. Both have been in trouble with the law in the state they came from, the father for disorderly conduct, the mother for passing bad checks. They had little money when the child was born.
There was, you know, different things that were coming out in the news media that had nothing to do with what was happening. It was just trying to tear down my character.
Ignorant, illiterate, ill-informed, drug addicted. I mean, name the slur, it was floating around about this woman. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure where it all came from.
And it seemed like they were portraying me as somebody who they just pulled out of the woodwork somewhere. And I may have been young and naive, but I wasn't, you know, I wasn't dumb, and I did have feelings.
Because of the artificial heart experiment, the ethicists and the critics had also been contacted about this, and so they were already in the Rolodex. That was an old, ancient device used to look up phone numbers. So it was interesting. It partly became frenzied because people knew who to go to get critical comments or at least more independent assessment. That's how I got involved in this.
From an ethical point of view, if you have no choice, if you have a hope of saving a child by sacrificing an animal, I don't see any argument against doing that. I think human life is worth more overall than animal life.
Ethical questions I knew were going to be surfacing immediately. First of all, just that you're killing an animal. Yeah, you're trying to save a baby, but you've killed someone. This wasn't an accident where they donated from the family. You went outright and killed an animal.
Primates may not be people, but they're pretty close, and it gets close to a violation of an ethical principle: don't kill to save.
Animal rights advocates charge the whole concept is wrong, say that it's unacceptable.
To sacrifice the lives of innocent, defenseless animals who have done us no harm because we think that we're going to get some sort of personal advantage out of it.
This is technically and scientifically a fraud. Christian Barnard, who butchered countless animals and people, already said years ago that this is futile, and these people are doing it for publicity.
The staff weren't coming from that because they had worked with babies with severe heart defects. They had worked with babies that had gone through attempted surgical repairs for the left hypoplastic. They all had worked with Dr. Bailey. Again, all the intentions and the rationale behind this surgery were not even a question for them. We were going to help a baby.
I'm sympathetic with the animal rights people. However, I am a member of the human species, and I have to deal with dying human species babies every day. And I'm more sympathetic towards that issue than I am with the animal rights endeavors. I think they help keep us aware of the fact that we can't do needless or useless things that are harmful to animals. We know that we may be in for quite a long battle in the weeks ahead. We think we've got a lot of things going for us to help us with that battle in the weeks ahead. I don't expect that she will accept this graft any better than many people accept their ordinary human donor kidneys or donor hearts. We do believe that, immunologically speaking, that the compatibility between this baby and this graft is remarkable, and you'll hear more about that.
I wanted to be able to transplant the babies. I wanted them to live. I think that was an open, honest effort. Within a day or two, she was awake. She was off the ventilator. She was beginning to take oral nutrition. And we were all spending hours and hours trying to figure out how to transfer the information that we had from the laboratory to her.
She was such a beautiful, beautiful child. Oh, she was so beautiful. She had this angelic face, and she had this darling little curl of hair on the top of her head.
When Stephanie would look at you, she would look like right through you. It was a look that I've never seen a baby have before. It was so deep, it was like she was trying to communicate with your spirit.
She really was special. It was like she knew what she was here to do. I don't know how to explain that.
The Channel 2 News Sunday Report.
It's a fascinating story, a story that is being told around the world tonight. The child, known only as Baby Faye, who is surviving with the transplanted heart of a baboon, continues to do well.
Baby Faye now has been living with the transplanted heart of a baboon for a full week, and every day of life for her is medical history.
Dear Baby Faye, we hope you will be well soon, so you can come out of the hospital. You'll be able to see nature. It's real beautiful. It's prettier than the hospital. You'll be real happy when you see it. You're lucky you have a brave doctor like Dr. Bailey loves me.
I received hundreds and hundreds of letters from the public that were so supportive, and I think that, you know, along with God giving me strength, that those letters also gave me strength. Because when I would go home in the evening, I would lay and read letters for hours.
We all knew very well, and especially nurses know this, you have to have bonding between an infant and their parents, especially the mother.
They need to know that someone around them cares, because they've not had any experience in the world yet. But in the survival of the babies, you can tell their will to live by how they fight, and how they'll even take your finger. You've got all these lines and tubes, and they'll take a finger and they'll grasp it. You can tell by their strength how they grasp. And they don't even know what type of world it is they're fighting to live in. And you're there to help them. And you're their protector. And that's exactly how it was with Baby Faye.
Companionship, your friends cannot provide.
Teresa had gotten a cold, and we were afraid, with the baby being on immunosuppression, that being exposed to her mom, that she might get infected.
And I was so afraid that if I went into her room, that since her immune system was low, that she would get sick from that and die from having a cold. And so I was scared to go in her room.
So what happened is they cleared the room very next door to where Baby Faye was, and we had a phone connection set up. And that picture is the epitome of what was going on in those couple of days that we didn't want Teresa with Baby Faye, because she would call on the phone, and I would hold the phone to Baby Faye, and Baby Faye would just light up. She knew her mother's voice. It was so beautiful. And it made such a difference to that baby, you know, to be able to hear her mother's voice. It was incredible.
I think I might have been reading her nursery rhyme. And I just talked to her, and it always looked like she was trying to, you know, look around because she heard my voice. I always thought she was trying to find me.
See where the pain takes you. See where
I never got to hold her after surgery.
So it wasn't until about the end of the second week that we started to see problems, maybe even going into the somewhere at the beginning of the third week.
Baby Faye is in trouble tonight. Her transplanted baboon heart is being rejected by her body.
Baby Faye is back on life support systems this evening as her tiny body continues to show signs of rejecting her baboon heart.
When she started to have problems, we realized that she was going into a rejection episode. Every transplant patient goes into a rejection episode. It's rare that they don't. But you're monitoring for it, you react to it immediately, you step up the immunosuppression, you do all the things that you need to do. And she started making a reaction that became what looked like to us an autoimmune reaction. And she started shutting down all her major organs. It was not an outright rejection of the heart, it was a rejection of everything. It's almost like when you have a patient who's had a stem cell or a bone marrow transplant, where they get what they call the GVH, or the graft versus host. In that case, you have an immune system of someone else coming into the body, and that immune system sees the entire body as foreign. And it starts to attack the whole body, and it can be fatal.
I called the hospital that afternoon and I said, you know, how's she doing? Is there anything new? And they said she wasn't doing very good that day, and they thought maybe that we needed to come over. She was so swollen. She didn't even look like the same baby. And I told God, I said, you know, if it's her time, just go ahead and take her, because I don't want her to suffer no more. You know, she's having enough.
Today we grieve the loss of this precious life, which could have been an absolute loss to her loved ones. Her unique place in our memories will derive from what she and her parents have done to give rise to a ray of hope for the babies to come.
And it was just so tragic, that we had lost that battle. I don't think, as much as we realized it, we had that warm-up period, so to speak, of the thought that, we were going to lose her, that when it finally happened, I don't think it was as dramatic as I expected, at least for me, and yet it was very final.
To this day, we don't know for sure what all conspired to take her life. But I am comforted in the fact that we made an effort to save her life. Her family are comforted with the notion that they did all they could do to save baby Faye to grow up in this world.
And I don't know if it was a false sense of hope, but I really never thought she was going to die. Probably if I would have known she was going to die, I would have never left the hospital. I would have just stayed there the whole time.
Baby Faye will live in our memories, I think, for a lifetime.
The night that Stephanie died, I asked Dr. Bailey to not let this experience be wasted and to keep going forward with it. And he did.
Within a year, we were able to find a human donor for a baby, and so we, at that point, abandoned the cross-species protocol and went straight to human transplants.
I don't know why it all started with her. You know, only God knows. But it had to start somewhere.
And there are a whole cadre of little bitty babies that were transplanted in those days that are growing up now and graduating from high school and falling in love with each other and heading for college and the workplace and doing everything that every other young person ought to be doing.
Ever since I left to go back to Kansas about a year after her life and death, I wanted her to come back with me. And it was really hard over the years not being able to go to her grave. And I know she's not. I know her spirit's not there. I know that with all my heart. But there's something, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just all in my mind about her not being there.
She's the kind of person that needed to go to the grave. She needed to talk to her little one. She needed to experience that, to really have the healing that I had seen her not have through these 23, 24 years.
And I had a headstone placed at the cemetery in Kansas, and I would go out there and I just, you know, it just didn't feel the same as when I would come here and go to the cemetery, because Bo and I spent a lot of time out here. And I'm not getting any younger. And when I'm gone, I want for my kids to be able to go visit her grave.
After resting for almost 24 years in California at Loma Linda, Montecito Memorial Park, Stephanie Faye Beauclair Drew has now come home to Kansas. Known by millions all over the world as Baby Faye, she is your daughter, granddaughter, sister, and loved one. When I talked to her just a few days ago, just 2 days ago, she had been out to the grave. And on Stephanie's birthday this year, it would have been her 24th birthday, she planted 3 purple chrysanthemum plants. One on either side and one on the top. And this is so healing for her. She is in such a different place that she has never been before. And it's because we were able to move the grave out to Kansas.
I'm going to spend the night out there too. I'm going to go sleep with her one more time.
I think about how I'm doing, but I don't know what I'm thinking. Shattering into shadow light, reflecting thoughts I can't relieve. My heart doesn't hurt anymore, but my soul does. Maybe that's what souls are for, to take the hurt the heart can't take. The heart can't take. Distance, playing tag, playing tricks with whatever it is I can't find. My weaknesses are my band-aids, covering for how I don't bleed. In all the stones I threw, some were for flinging, some were for bringing, and some I never knew. I never knew.
My heart doesn't hurt anymore, but my soul does. Maybe that's what souls are for. To take the hurt the heart can't take.
Living, painted into a picture, dripping off all these paintings, the colors of emotion, seeking any kind of devotion. Some things are private between me and the dead, and some of the rest is better off left unsaid. My heart doesn't hurt anymore, but my soul does. Maybe that's what souls are for. To take the hurt the heart can't take. The heart can't take.
My heart doesn't hurt anymore, but my soul does. Maybe that's what souls are for. To take the hurt the heart can't take.
Next time on Loma Linda 360.
2 weeks before Thanksgiving in 2004, and the doctors told me that both of my kidneys had failed and I'd have to go on dialysis.
Old high school friends, John and Lori both played an orchestra together.
We lost touch, and then with the invention of Facebook, we found each other again.
I was like, well, hey, you know, I've got two. Just been trying to lose weight anyway. It's got to be a couple pounds, right? And so I'm like, yeah, you can take mine, no problem. So I thought, oh, it's a friend who needs something.
Abdominal renal artery and the recipient iliac artery are connected. So now the kidney has blood from the recipient.